I was drawn towards becoming friendlier with lots of the girls, which was misunderstood by my father, who thought that I was a chick magnet. Can you imagine this visual of a 1 kilo cake that says "Happy Birthday, Karan" and me eating it all alone? The gender politics of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, very flawed. Salman Khan is a superhero. Salman and Shah Rukh together is our Avengers. The first person that made me feel I was okay was Shah Rukh Khan. I couldn't talk to friends about the fact that, I have different thoughts in my head from what the conventional thoughts are. Even now, when I step into a swimming pool, it can only be at a very private surrounding. And I haven't learned to still love myself.
हम एक बार जीते हैं, एक बार मरते हैं, शादी भी एक बार होती है और प्यार वो भी एक ही बार होता है. ये बोला था राहुल ने कुछ कुछ होता है के अंदर, पर ये मेरी जिंदगी का सार बन गया था. And I think I'll owe a lot of that understanding of love to the gentleman we have today in our show. Someone I greatly admire and look up to, Karan Johar.
I mean, completely to not shatter everyone's nostalgia and love for that film, but actually that line makes no sense and it is not applicable to the narrative of that film at all, because he says हम एक ही बार जीते मरते तो चलो ठीक है, एक बार शादी करते हैं, एक बार प्यार करते हैं, 2 बार उन्होंने शादी की, 2 बार प्यार भी हो गया. तो I was like, what was I thinking? Why did I write this? How was it with so much? Then I realized कि एक word होता है conviction. आप उसके साथ कभी चले जाते हो, चाहे वो प्रेम कहानी में हो, personally or in cinema, you go with that conviction, and I think that the journey will end well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I want to uncover your thoughts on love, on masculinity and a lot more. But first I want to start with your boyhood. So this is your boyhood.
My boyhood.
Yeah, so this
I
is
have a boyfriend. I was
This is a memory box, so to speak.
Oh, wow.
And if there's something over here that strikes you as a memory that you had, you can talk a little bit about it.
Oh, wow. These are the tickets of Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. In many ways, this is my only training ground. Yeah. Everything I learned about filmmaking, about narrative, structure, camera, performance, whatever, which was not, technically I was always 0 on 10 when I started. Yeah. But Adi Chopra had a lot of faith in me. He had a lot of faith that I would be a filmmaker. I didn't have that faith in myself. I really believed that I was inequipped to be in the movie industry. I didn't think I had the talent or the personality for it. And my parents were equally worried because I was a very, very shy, introverted, nobody will believe that now, but very shy, introverted, very scared to be around people because I was an exceptionally effeminate child. Yeah. And I was overweight. Yeah. So I combated many of those issues as a child, because whenever I went out to play a sport, I was made fun of because I ran funny or my hand gestures were not what boys called, like the word in the 80s was pansy. Yeah. So today what you call gay or fag, homo, said in a derogatory tone, it was called pansy in those days. Yeah. And it was a word that, literally had really pushed me into a shell because every time I went out, anytime I attempted to be on the field, maybe try and play football or basketball or cricket, not that I was physically adept for it anyways, but also my body language was made fun of. So therefore, I had gone into a shell, become so introverted that I didn't feel like the movie industry was something that I would ever be a part of. Yeah. It was only when I met Adi again, we were childhood friends, we met again.
But not cousins.
We are not cousins at all. We are not related. We're related only by love. And he's my mentor because he got really close to me, got really friendly with me and told me that you've got to stop doing everything else. And I was on my way to France to do 1 year more of French. My father had a tiny import-export business. My mother was insistent that I get into some business because she didn't think... My father had made quite a few films that had failed. So she was like, पापा का बिजनेस अच्छा नहीं चल रहा, छोटा बहुत ये इंपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट का बिजनेस है, ये काम कर लो. पापा बोलते फ्रेंच ज्यादा सीख लो तो काम आ जाएगा. So I said ठीक है. So I was going and Adi stopped me 2 weeks before and my father had paid up about 7 lakhs of rupees, which is a lot of money in 1993. And he just said that just leave it all, become an AD. Don't run away from it, you're a filmmaker. And I said, I think you're mad. But he said, think about it, this is your calling. You've also helped me in the writing process of Dilwale Dulhaniya. You feel so attached to it. Yeah. Next morning, much like the scene that Kajal has in Dilwale with Amrish Puri, where she says, "Mujhe apni zindagi ka ek mahina de dijiye." I had that same scene, which is where I think Adi got that scene from, where I asked my father कि आप मुझे मेरी जिंदगी का एक साल दे दीजिए, मैं असिस्ट कर लूंगा, और अगर मुझे लगा कि ये मेरे लिए नहीं है, तो आप जो चाहे, वो आप जो कहें, मैं वही करूंगा. My father was a very large-hearted man, and he thought that I was like literally the best-looking, best, most talented, gorgeous person on planet Earth, because he really was obsessed with me, and I think I took a little advantage of that. And he agreed. My mother sulked with me for a month, and I went onto the sets of Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, not knowing where my journey was going to lead. And this film is everything to me. I have more memories of Dilwale Dulhaniya than I have of Kuch Kuch or Kabhi Khushi or any other film I've directed, because this is the film that literally started it all for me. My conviction that I will be a filmmaker, my relationship with Shah Rukh Khan, Kajol, and of course, the Chopra family that engulfed me as family. And like, I'm here because of these tickets sold. Yeah. I'm literally here because of these tickets sold. So yeah, that. Madonna. So, you know, there was a phase where, much like all the other kids in my class, the Walkman culture was very predominant. Sab Walkman pe, you know, गाने सुनते थे, और Archie's Art Gallery के यहाँ वो books मिलते थे जहाँ lyrics हुआ करते थे इन अंग्रेजी गानों के. तो Wham, you know, Madonna, these were everyone's icons. So मैंने भी उनको भी अपना fake icon बना दिया था. So much as I have regard and respect for her talent, I was actually a closeted Lata Mangeshkar fan. But I would project Madonna because I was like, it's the cool thing to say, right? But I didn't want to be uncool. So I pretended till a point I stopped acting. Then I went back to Lata ji and I was like, I'm sorry, my Walkman will only play Hindi film songs. And I will hear Kishore Kumar, Lata Mangeshkar, Rafi, Mohammad Rafi. And Madonna ko maine Toodles tab keh diya tha. With all my respect and regard for her. She and Wham, all these, you know, were all people. Wake Me Up Before You Go Go was my go-to song. Like at any party, I would pretend like I know the steps and think that George Michael was my icon. Nahi the yaar. Kishore Kumar and Lata Mangeshkar. I was faking it and frauding it to the whole world.
It's so interesting, Karan, that you know, the icons that you had, even though you've said that you know there was a certain impression that the world had of you and society had of you because of the kind of kid you were. You did not ever try to find, so to speak, you know, traditional masculine icons or masculine ideas around you to show the world that you are also trying to fit in?
I mean, you know, the thing is that the one thing that I never did was lie to myself or pretend to the world. I may have tried to fit in, but that was more with pop culture. Okay. I never pretended to be a huge cricket fan and to say that Gavaskar and Kapil Dev are my heroes. I know they were national heroes and the world loved them. But I was obsessed with Guru Dutt's movies. I was obsessed with Yash Chopra's movies. I was obsessed with Raj Kapoor's movies. I was obsessed with Rishi Kapoor and his sweaters. You know, and how to tell people at that time, I grew up in a South Bombay neighborhood that didn't know much about Hindi cinema, that I love Rishi Kapoor. Like, I'm obsessed with Rishi Kapoor. Like, he's actually my pin-up boy. But wo thoda acting karna padta tha us zamane mein to act cool. At one point when I turned 14 or 15, I dropped the guard, you know, and I was like, yaar, main ye kyun kar raha hu? I wasn't yet able to understand my orientation or like what I was representing. It was those thoughts I didn't have. But I knew I was drawn to very different things from the other boys in my neighborhood or my class. I was very different from them, you know, and therefore I was drawn towards becoming friendlier with lots of the girls, which was misunderstood by my father, who thought that I was a chick magnet, where actually it was only girls who were talking to me because I was funny and campy and you know, I felt comfortable with them. So even at school, I was more debate, elocution, drama, stage. I was known for those things, you know, so I was very popular in school, but not because of any sport. Like, you know, I tried long jump, kuch nahi hua. I tried running. I thought कि मैं इतनी तेजी से भाग रहा हूँ, लेकिन मैं अपनी जहन में ही भाग रहा था. Actually, on the field, I was 0 on 10. But I made it up with other stuff.
You and me both, Karan.
No, it's fine.
I saw when K3G came out, I saw Laddu and who turned into Hrithik Roshan.
And that scene actually, after not being able to tie shoelaces, is me. In fact, the only time I got a whack from my mom was because at age 12, I couldn't tie my shoelaces. And you know why I couldn't tie them? Because I couldn't bend. my thing is my stomach was coming in the way. So I used to just have some, it was ridiculously spoiled of me, and I was just, food was my solace, was my best friend. There used to be a lady in South Bombay called Azra Gorewala, and she used to make this chocolate cake. The chocolate cake is the best chocolate cake anyone will eat in the world. I used to call her and say, Auntie, it's my birthday, can you send me the cake? And she would send me the cake, and I would sit in my room and eat that 1 kilo cake on my own. Till she called my mom one year and she said, Mrs. Johar, your son has ordered 4 birthday cakes this year. It can't be possible
for his own
birthday. And it was written happy birthday. Can you imagine this visual of a 1 kilo cake that says happy birthday Karan and me eating it all alone? It was because chocolate or chicken makhan wala and butter naan and Chinese food from Chinese room, Indian food from Shalimar Camp's corner. It was like these were my go-tos. I used to get happy thinking कि मैं घर जाऊंगा और फिर मैं WIA club से ये मंगवाऊंगा. It was just food. It was because I was running away from other things. So food became my companion, my solace, my support.
And you didn't have therapy or, you didn't have words like mental health for you to even understand what you may be going through with your body, what you may be going through in your life.
There was no help. There was no such thing as counseling. There was no. You had to kind of just. You had to kind of really help yourself. In many ways, that was the only way I knew. I couldn't talk to friends about the fact that I have different thoughts in my head from what the conventional thoughts are. I couldn't talk to. This is not to say that I didn't have a fantastic childhood as well. Because this might be the dark side, and this is the hum side. But there was the Khushi side as well. There was my parents who had a great relationship. There were friends I had a great time with. There were trips I went on with my friends. I was always, like funny and self-deprecating, and people enjoyed my company and I enjoyed being with people. I used to love going to, the movies. So I had so many happy, joyous moments as well. I have to say that while my childhood was full of a lot of dark insecurities and questions, it was also full of a lot of exclamation marks as well. That came with a lot of the joy that I experienced. These photos, I'm so happy in all of them. I'm just happy because I was happy because of my mom and my dad and the love they gave me. And the fact that I was the only child, I was the center of their attention. And I had a really great relationship with my father. Many boys have combated their issues. They have daddy issues and father issues. My father was like he was everything. He was my idol. He just made me feel so special. Every time I came home with so many insecurities in my head, he would make me feel like I was a prince. He would look at me and say कि थोड़ा puppy fat है, चला जाएगा वरना तू तो hero लगता है. And I was like, my mother would roll her eyes thinking what is he saying? And he was like, कल से तू horse trading कर, कल से तू dance class पे जा, तू hero बन सकता है, तू star बनेगा, इतना good looking है, इतना good looking है. And I would like he's really totally deluded. He's just being this gregarious, full of love Punjabi papa that just saw nothing else. Contrary to a lot of other times, there are mothers that are a lot more protective and slightly deluded about their children. My mother wasn't. She was always the one who told me what was wrong. My father always told me the wrong thing. The day he passed away, I remember I felt like I lost my biggest support. I lost my biggest supporter. I lost my biggest cheerleader. He was my biggest cheerleader. Anything I did, it was whether I got 6 on 10 on a test, or 4 on 10 on a test, or a 10 on 10. His reaction was the same. It was euphoric. You're so good. You're so bright. And so these images and this address, 92 Acropolis, Little Gibbs Road, Malabar Hill, Bombay 46, is embedded in my heart. This is my first home. I lived here till I was 25. And largely because I have so many memories of my father in this house. Ye kya hai?
These are Valentine's Day cards. Did you ever give one to someone?
Valentine Day card. So I pretended to be in love with a girl in the 10th standard. She was also head girl. So everybody in the 10th standard was crushing on some girl. So I thought I should join this bandwagon because varna how do I, so I pretended that I was crushing on her and I gave her a card on Rose Day, not Valentine's Day. And she took the card and then she called me. And actually, maybe she was my first reality check. She said, you didn't really want to give me this rose, did you? And I said, no, I really think you're nice. I like you. She says, yeah, but like, you don't want to give me this card or rose. And I thought it was rather evolved of her because I really didn't. So yeah, I have exchanged, but for all the wrong reasons and obviously to be cool.
Did you ever get a card during growing up?
No, I got a lot of Raksha Bandhan Rakhis. My hands were full with Rakhis. And till I was told that it's not something I should celebrate. But I was very happy because I don't think any girl saw me as a lover or a boyfriend. I was always the brother or the best friend. You know, I was never gave that vibe.
Sure.
And therefore, I gained a lot of like sisters. But there were, you know, not very many of the girls that gave me any gestures of romance or love.
I think this was an important moment of your life.
This Interact Club moment is actually the moment that changed my life for me forever. I had lesser known fact, I had gone to a boarding school for 5 days. So basically, Dimple Kapadia's daughter, Twinkle, who I grew up with, said that she was going to this new era school in Panchkani. Yeah. And I felt, because I was made so much fun of, and I felt so... I felt like I was like the target of jokes, and I felt a little like this world is now caving in on me. I came up with this idea on my own that I'll go to another school, another city, like boarding. And my parents were like, why do you want to go to boarding? Like, you know, you're so protected here. Will you be able to manage? I said, no. I kept thinking, नई जिंदगी, नई शुरुआत, नए लोग. तो मैं पूरी तरह मैंने farewell सबको, like showing them the middle finger, farewell वाला, you know, कि मैं जा रहा हूँ, you know, छोड़ के जा रहा हूँ मैं, you know, तुमने बहुत मुझे, मेरे साथ बहुत बेइंसाफी हुई है, अब देखना मेरी अलग जिंदगी होगी, मैं जा रहा हूँ सब छोड़ छाड़ के अपने सलीम की गली, literally अनारकली disco चली, and I was like on my way to Panchkani with like a buoyant feeling. And the very first day I met this guy, his name was Ali, I don't remember his last name. And we were at this Kanga house dormitory. And he said that, your parents are dead? So I said, no, they are not dead. They are alive. Your father's dead? So I said, no. Your mother's dead? I said, no. They beat you? I said, no. They beat each other? I said, no. So then he looked at me, he said, then why are you here? So I was like, I got the shock of my first, like, shock. I was like, subsequently, I realized that I'm away from my parents in this place. I didn't know anyone. And then that first night I got ragged. But they realized I was so vulnerable, they didn't do too much. Yeah. They just put me into the bathroom and it was very cold. And they said, you have to spend all night here. And very kindly, they made me just sit in. And I cried. Next day, I cried. Third day, on the assembly, in the middle of the assembly at school, I cried so loudly that the principal got involved, pushed me aside, took me into a room. I said, I want to talk to my mother. My mother literally called me and said that be strong, be brave. She felt sick. So, but my father came. And like Tare Zameen Par na, it was the same school, it was shot in. I saw my father at a distance. And exactly like that Darshil Safari, I have run into my father's arms and I kept holding him. And the one thing I kept saying was, Papa, take me home. I promise I won't eat. That was the first thing that came out of my mind because I knew food had become such a big part of my physicality. And I said, I won't eat. And he got so teary because he was like, he won't eat. He said, tu gaadi mein chal. Maine pehli kaha tha nahi jana. And he took me back. Then my mother, at that point in time, gave me a lecture that stayed in my head. She took me aside and she said, I'm very unhappy that my son is so weak. That my son, you know, cannot do anything. She said, is there anything that you're good at? She says, you're not doing anything that makes you feel, or makes me and Papa feel like you've done something special. That you are someone special, that you are. She says, I can see you have talents, but you don't hone any of them. You do nothing. So you don't play a sport. You don't take part in any activities. You have no friends. That point of time, it really stuck with me. It broke my heart into a gazillion pieces. And I used to love the Interact Club, but I was too shy to be a part of it because I felt only the cool, well-spoken kids would be part of the Interact Club. So I used to stand outside there many a time. This time I went one step closer. I entered very close to the door and the class was starting. There was a Miss Doris that was conducting that class and she looked at me and she said, do you want to come in?
Yeah.
So I said, yes. I went in and she said, okay, today we're playing Jam. Just a minute. And everybody has a big bowl. You pick up a topic and everyone says it. And I literally, I kid you not, the topic I got was mom.
Wow.
And which is the scene in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. And I was very funny in that 1 minute. I said many funny things about my mother. I gave a different take. Everybody was saying...
You didn't make people cry?
No, like I just made people laugh because I was talking about my mother and all the things I do and all the whatever. Everybody clapped. at the end of that minute. And Miss Doris looked at me and she said, well, welcome to Interact Club and I want to see you every Thursday. I was like, okay, done. I was suddenly felt like that was one ek padao. You know, मैंने कुछ पार कर लिया, मैं Interact Club में हूँ. 3 weeks later, you know, वो जो स्कूल के सिस्टम में लोगों के नाम बचते थे for whatever reason, चाहे naughty हो, चाहे वो कुछ achievement हो, मेरा नाम कोई जानता नहीं था, कुछ पता नहीं था. Suddenly it was Karan Johar, you are wanted in the principal's room. I was like, मुझे क्यों बुला रहे हैं? मैंने क्या किया? I went running down to the principal's room and there was Miss Doris sitting and the principal of that time, Mrs. Kiran Bajaj.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Doris looked at me and said, do you know a poem? So I said, yes, I do, Highwayman. She says, okay, you and Rohan Arthur, this other student, are going right now to some school where you have to do the preliminary round for the inter-school elocution. Yeah. You and Rohan, because Tapan Mehta has typhoid. Tapan Mehta can't go, you have to go. And I'm like, me? I had never been anywhere for anything. Irony of all ironies is, I enter, the first person I see is a very familiar person, and he looks at me and he said, aren't you Yash Uncle and Hero Auntie's son? I said, yeah, and you're Yash Uncle and Pam Auntie's son. So, me and Adi, sitting opposite at two ends of that class, have both gone in the preliminary round. I said Highwayman, he said Great Dictator. And in many ways, it's very close to our personalities. I'm on the Highwayman and he is a Great Dictator. So, we both go and we compete and we both get into the second round, as does Rohan Arthur. Those days, we had to do a written speech for the elocution. And there was like Pearl Padamsi, Shehnaz, Patel. These were the judges. Done my speech, we're done, we're waiting. So finally Rohan says we should leave. So we were trying to leave because हमारा तो कोई हैसियत नहीं थी वहां बैठने की, ना कभी हम जीते थे स्कूल में, ना कभी ये desire था भी यार, ये that this idea that one can even win a bronze medal. Yeah. So, but we were leaving and there was that lady said, you can't leave it to wait for the results. Everybody has to wait. You can't. So we went back and sat, you know, waited. The results aane lage. Third prize, some school. Second prize, some school. First prize, they said, Karan Johar, Green Lawns. Yeah. So I was sitting there and Rohan, I just felt Rohan kicking me from below. He said, Karan, go, you won. And I was like, huh? And then I got up and I walked like in 48 frames in a dazed state. मैं वहां गया, उन्होंने मुझे इतना बड़ा cup दिया, इतना बड़ा. And it was as big as me. And I'm holding that cup and I don't know what I was thinking. I've come back holding that cup in my hand and I didn't want to leave it. I entered my house and my mother opened the door because it was late by that time. She looked at me and she said, what is this? Was her first question. I said, I got the cup, I got the gold prize. She burst out crying. My father burst out crying. Then seeing them cry, I burst out crying. I had never won anything in my life. In my life. The next day, I was in the assembly of the school and Mrs. Bajaj said, for the first time in the history of Green Lawns, we have won inter-school and it's by a boy from 8B. Karan Johar, and I came on stage with this big cup and I was like and after that I had become like जैसे ऋतिक रोशन का debut हुआ था ना in कौन प्यारे, I had become like that in Green Lawns. I had become like overnight I had become a sensation. And then it just flipped. That Interact Club just changed my entire life. My personality so much just happened because I won that cup. Yeah.
You know, Karan, I've seen so many of your interviews, I've read your book as well. And I've always seen how you talk about all your childhood at this point of time with so much, you know, candor and fun and jokes, you know. But of course, when I think of all that you must have gone through, it would have been very traumatic for you to actually have gone through it. And I know that you've also mentioned that you've gone to therapy now, you've had these conversations. Now that you've been able to, you know, with the help of mental health professionals, look back at your childhood, is there something that you've realized about what you were going through at that time? How did you process it? How did you find a way of loving yourself, so to speak?
So the thing is that the therapy and the psychologist that I visited many years ago and currently also, I mean, I'm in conversation with her because I realized that I was getting some kind of like social anxiety, which is an irony for the life I lead. But she also feels very strongly that there's a lot of post-trauma. Initially, when I went to her in 2016, she felt like I had carried a lot of my childhood baggage into my being, into my relationships, and I hadn't dealt with a lot of my issues. I haven't learned to still love myself as much as possibly the world would imagine that I do, or anybody, that I'm some kind of megalomaniac or thinking like I'm like, because like I have a lot of body issues even now. Even now when I step into a swimming pool, it can only be at a very private surrounding. And that too, my towel I will drop at the last minute and jump in so that nobody sees my body. I'm not comfortable with my body even now. But what I'm comfortable with is myself. So the moment I wear that black suit, it's like my armor. The moment I get into fashion, that's when I found my voice. When I realized that I'm going to wear what I want to, no matter what people say. Like, you know, people, social media will say, ye kya pehen raha hai? Ranveer Singh ki cheap copy hai ye. And they call me Gay Joe. And they make like all kinds of lewd remarks on my fashion and costumes. And all that doesn't bother me. Because that, now I've developed a thick skin for that. Because I'm Gemini, there are two sides of my personality. One side is where I wear that fashion or that black suit and I'm in that armor. I don't give a damn. Yeah. But the second side of me is that I still have issues with my body. I still am not completely confident in my skin, so to say. I've combated also, a large time, it was also like difficult for me to feel attractive. So even for very many years, being like without my clothes in a intimate situation with a person was difficult. You know, I had to be that lights off person, you know, because I felt very awkward without my clothes. That took a while to come to, because then suddenly in the last decade, I feel I found my voice even there. So now I feel like what I should have done in abundance in my 20s and 30s, I did in my 40s and now very much in my 50s. I find myself much more in touch with my my intimate side now. I'm more open even physically. And I haven't been in a relationship because I carry a lot of those baggages in that. I'm not in a relationship right now. I've tried and combated some. It's tough, to B, when you're a public figure and you're oriented in a certain way. It's tough to walk holding someone's hand, you know, out and about. It's not easy, but I found my peace with a lot of that now. Part of me is the most emotionally sorted person, and part of me is an emotional wreck and a mess. There's not a single day that I wake up completely confident or completely in control. But there are moments in the day where I feel I can assume it. And, you know, what the world sees is definitely what I am definitely not. The world and the impression that my talk show has given people about me, and I don't want to say this as a victim or anything, but it's put me in this certain kind of in a personality box, which I don't think I am at all. I feel people don't know me at all. I think the ones who know me are the really ones who are close to me. I feel I come across all wrong. It's like they really think that this is a devil that wears Prada, you know, and they don't see that I could be a nice guy wearing Gucci. You know, they don't see that. And it doesn't bother me anymore because I feel like eventually tera karam hi teri vijay hai. And I feel that your good karma will give you rich dividends. I feel so blessed. I run a studio that is now grown from strength to strength. I have the most wonderful friends. I have a mother that is still who I can still hug and hold. And I think I'm blessed with the most beautiful children. I say beautiful inside. Yeah. They're good kids sent to me by the universe and my dad, perhaps. And I feel like all the other crap that goes on is diluted completely because there's so much good to look at. Yeah. You know, when I see like my mom and my kids and the people I work closely with in my company, I feel like, oh God, this is the blessing. Like, I always believe gratitude should be your only attitude. Wow. Yeah. I feel everyone only wants to paint a sorry picture or tell you about their traumas, trials, and tribulations. What about what you have to be grateful for? Yeah. And the only qualities that I live by, Nikhil, are gratitude and loyalty. I don't know anything else. I'm grateful and I'm loyal. These are the two things. No matter whether people have not been grateful to me or not been loyal to me, my karma energy is very important to me. I feel like every time something good happens, I feel like that's my karma in check. And every time something wrong that happens, I'm like, it's waiting for something good to happen. So,
thank you for that. I just want to say that for what it's worth, you look $1 million in anything you wear. And that I think every one of us can acknowledge. Karan, I want to also ask you, because, you know, the films around us always had this idea of what a man was, right? You've grown up in the 70s, 80s. You know, we've seen Vijay We have seen Mard ko dar nahi hota. We have seen a certain kind of masculine understanding of what should a boy be. And I feel like that's pressurized a lot of boys at that point of time to be a certain version of a man. I have two questions on this. Was there someone around you, whether it was a man or a woman or any other gender, that made you feel a little bit more comfortable in who you are or your body?
I think the first person that made me feel that I was okay was Shah Rukh Khan.
Oh, wow.
He was born and brought up in a very progressive environment. He'd come from theatre. He had worked with all kinds of people. And I think my parents perhaps weren't being able to understand things. And I felt like the feminine side that I had that was coming out so strongly was only met with laughter or with, being made fun of. And then when I grew a little older, people got a little more quiet about that. But I could tell that there was a chitter-chatter around, about maybe the way I walked or spoke or things. Which I remember Shah Rukh Khan was the first kind of like man that didn't make me feel lesser for some reason. He made me feel like an equal, not just as in person, but even I feel like he accepted what in those days were considered like being a pansy or being effeminate or walking funny, and like he was just so cool about it, about everything. And he used to have a lot of open chats with me. And I felt like even when I had to say the biggest thing about my personality and sexuality, I spoke to him first because I felt like he would be that one influence he was that one sense of support that even he hasn't realized that he has been to me. I feel like Indian cinema has painted the most flawed interpretation of what a man should be. And the things that are said to us as children that have defined and made the fabric of like gender the way it is. You don't tell children, don't cry like a girl or be a man. What does be a man mean? Like it is the most ridiculous. Yeah. Be a man up. Yeah. Man up means what? Means like you can man up means raising your hand on a woman. That's not being a man. Man up is what? Controlling the stakeholders of your home and not wanting your wife to work? That's not being a man. Man up is what? Going to the gym? That's being a man. This is all rubbish that has been trained into people's heads. I'm like, luckily for me, I was raised by very evolved women. My mother and my aunts were very strong women. So I've always had a very strong, my feminine side has also lent itself to me being a feminist. I'm a proud feminist. Yeah. I'm all about the women. And in fact, while men may mean many other things to me in this world, but I'm not blind to their, not flaws, but I think their defects that society has given them. Ironically, I blame just the upbringing because I feel you've got to train your male child the way you would train your female child. Yeah. I mean, you have to have no disparity there. The fact that we raise our boys and girls very differently, there lies the first problem. I have a living example of a boy and a girl at home, and I'm raising them in the same. They're both in taekwondo, they're both in football, awesome. They're both in ballet, they're both in dance, they both wear pink, they both have very equal upbringings. That's my way of contributing to the fabric of our society. To answer your question, yes, it was for Shah Rukh, and it still remains Shah Rukh.
That's amazing. You said when you first went to Shah Rukh and spoke about what you were going through as a boy, I would love to know if you would like to share that. What did he say to you?
It's what he didn't say.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's what he didn't bring up. It's what he normalized. Wow. When I sat funny or walked funny or or said campy things, he laughed. He would hang out with me, chat with me, laugh at my jokes. Like Nikhil, it wasn't what he said, it's what he didn't say. That's all that matters.
That's beautiful. Is Shah Rukh Khan the reason why your first film was a love story? Given that, again, you've spoken about your influences being 70s and 80s, masala films growing up.
No, but love was always the favorite genre, right? Really? Love was everything because I'd grown up loving Bobby. I had grown up obsessing about Yash Chopra's romances, whether it was Chandni or Silsila, Lamhe. Love was everything for me. Like a male-female romance to me, a heterosexual romance to me was like my definition of love always in my head. There was no other genre to go with. Shah Rukh, in fact, was the last person I want because he hated love stories. He only wanted to be in action films. He didn't want Adi to make Dilwale. He was irritated I was making Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. But then when these films worked, he didn't say anything because he was like, you know, Charte Suraj ko salam, to I'm like, ye love story chal rahi hai, to jao uske saath. But Pathan is him.
Yeah.
Like he loves Pathan, Jawan. Like these are his movies that he's finally doing that he loves after being in the business for over 35 years.
Wow. No, because I'm asking that question also because your father's made these iconic, films. Yeah. Agnipath is a big action film at that time. And the cinema around you always reflected that. I always used to wonder, why are there no superhero films in India, in Hindi cinema? And then somewhere it just clicked with me that because in Hindi cinema, the Indian boy, Indian man is a superhero in himself.
Yeah.
We don't need a cape. We are the guy in an action film is going and hitting and beating.
Salman Khan is a superhero.
Exactly, Salman Khan.
So you have Superman, you have Salman Khan. These are superheroes. And if you and now Salman and Shah Rukh together is our Avengers. So I mean, like we've done it. What are we giving them superpowers for? Yeah. They are anyway bashing up 1,000 men. They can do no wrong. Yeah. They're perfect morally, physically, emotionally, everything. You're absolutely right. But for me, it was always that genre really, because Raj Kapoor and Yash Chopra were so ingrained in my system, as was Guru Dutt. My influences were not as much Manmohan Desai and Prakash Mehra. It was always these filmmakers. So love had to be my first choice of subject.
How has your understanding of love changed over the years from what you saw your parents share, for each other and for you? And then, of course, what you've done in your films and what love is today. What would you say has been your change and evolution in the understanding of love?
I think love at one point was a duty or a responsibility. You were obliged to be in love in your marriage. It came as an obligation. Love was also rebellion at one time because the ones that were not adhering to duty and responsibility were then succumbing to rebelling against parents or society and getting married. And that was also one kind of love. Then love moved to the perfect popcorn feeling of love, I think in the 90s. This is because of globalization and the Shah Rukh Khanification of love, where everybody was looking for that ideal love, the Raj Simran romance. The 2000s starts succumbing to a new general, the advent of the millennial. And the millennial came with their own feeling of love. Then the dating app era, started, and you have Tinder love, and you have Bumble love, and you have all that kind of love. But I think what we don't realize, and you would know this because you've actively worked with the youth, I find this generation, the perception is that this generation is very detached and has full of options, and like they go from swiping left to swiping right, and they are a swipe generation. But to me, when I see and meet younger kids, I find that when they fall in love, they're very obsessive. I find there's a lot of dark, grey, obsessive areas of love that most of these younger people are combating. I feel there's a lot of angst in this love. There is no longer the roses are red, violets are blue kind of love. This love has become dark. It's become stocky. It's become like, I think our love has a lot of turbulence today. The moment there is that feeling of angst, that's when they feel like that love. And I feel like they're dealing much more with issues of monogamy and issues of self, like I would say, like they're all about like their personality clashes. There's a lot of anger and angst in this generation of love. So I've seen love go from duty to angst and anger. And it's been quite a journey.
Karan, do you feel like I've always felt, and this is again my theory, that somewhere outside in films that are being made, whether in Korea, whether, in American cinema, etc., films kind of reflect society. But I always have felt growing up, from whatever I've observed, that our society reflects our films. Like in India, it's the opposite. We make films and then society starts becoming that. And you can look at examples of, what Tere Naam, you can look Vijay, you can look at, even the evolution of the Hindi film hero, as you said,
But have you realized we have no hero now?
Yeah, I was going to come to that.
Now we have no
yeah,
hero. Like the South has given one type of hero,
exactly.
which remained there always.
Yeah,
they never went away. But Hindi cinema has no hero. The hero today is the film.
Yeah.
And the character has now that we've lost our hero, and thank God, perhaps.
Sure.
Lord knows that we don't need a hero to be just a male.
Yeah.
I think your hero can be a woman as well.
Yeah.
I don't think that we need a Vijay to save us.
Yeah.
Or a Raj to rule our hearts. We don't need that. Now we need our content to be, I would say, impressionable in a good way. Yeah. I don't think it's healthy to be led by one type of prototype of a person.
Yeah.
Because when Vijay is great at that time, he's anti-establishment and angry, but there is a layer of misogyny that runs through so many of those heroes, and that is not healthy for our society. Because misogyny is not an answer for development. Yeah. Like, I feel like we always were imbalanced with gender. And I feel finally today, Hindi cinema is still trying to find its feet. Because I think Hindi cinema suffers from herd mentality. If the South does a certain type of film, we try to do it. Biopics are working, we try and do it. Yeah. Like, I feel like we've stopped that old-fashioned conviction. It's got swept away by so many other things. Because everyone's trying to please someone else. But to answer your question about society, I firmly believe we are right now not following or impressioned or are impressionable by anything. We're just trying to find our feet in cinema.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand when we've gone from, Vijay to Rahul, and then of course to Sid, and coming of age, and there was a period in between for
to Kabir Singh.
Yeah, exactly. So before that there was Ayushmann and Rajkumar, and you had socially conscious film, but now suddenly we have come back again to a certain kind of masala cinema, which shows masculinity as inherently violent, which shows that masculinity as something that coexists with misogyny.
But you must understand, Hindi cinemas derived this from the South cinema. This is not our core being.
Yeah.
This is our derivation. Suddenly now we are deriving it because KGF and Pushpa are such big hits. And we are deriving it in an inauthentic manner. The South have their own conviction in how they can pull it off.
Yeah.
And that's their strength. We don't have that strength.
Yeah.
We don't know what we are doing. I'm telling you, like me included, we're all like walking around like headless chickens trying to find our feet.
Correct.
I feel we don't want to see soft characters anymore, vulnerable. We don't want to see the flawed man anymore, because I think all the man in general in this country has gone back to being angry again. It's all resulting in this kind of feeling. The angst is therefore coming across in the cinema that is working. But Hindi cinema hasn't even got the anger right. Like even Kabir Singh is Arjun Reddy.
True.
Absolutely. It's not authentically Hindi.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what we did, nobody else can do. We did Pathan.
Yeah.
And if Shah Rukh plays Pathan, nobody else can play him like him. So that was old-fashioned Hindi cinema doing its own thing. And we need many more of that.
Yeah.
I
wonder, when you had a Shah Rukh Khan, and there's also a book that's come out recently called Desperately Seeking SRK, which talks about how an entire generation of women grew up wanting a man like him. Still, men in our country wanted to grow up to be Salman Khan, so to speak, right? Shah Rukh was always the women's idol, and Salman
I think you're talking about very deeply urban women. But there's a whole lot of women who are living in totally different stratas of society in this country. And they want different things.
Yeah.
For them, maybe they would be completely, they would feel very, very intimidated by a Raj or Rahul.
Really?
Maybe they're comfortable with a Vijay. Because that's the training they got from their mothers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying right or wrong, I'm passing no judgment here.
Absolutely.
You now are out there with Yuvaa, you've really penetrated like deep pockets of this country. You'd be able to know this.
Yeah.
That they are not wanting to run onto a train and find a perfect lover.
Yeah.
Many of them just want to leave their homes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And many of them, in fact, have more family issues than what is painted in our cinema.
Yeah.
Many of them have angsty homes. That's why they find marriage as a release. And then they get into that situation, they'd rather be there than at home.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think we still haven't painted the true reality of our nation. It hasn't come through. Cinema, especially my cinema too, has always glossed over because, I don't know better.
No, I spoke particularly because of the book, because the book actually paints a picture across economic stratas. You know, Shah Rukh came out to be the common aspiration of a certain kind, of all kinds of women
I
actually.
think right
across...
now, the industry is desperately seeking Shah Rukh Khan.
Absolutely.
And I don't know about the women or the men, but I know that he's become a hero, like a savior for the industry.
Absolutely.
We need him for the box office right now.
But do you think, why do you think no other man in the industry has been able to recreate in romance what Shah Rukh Khan had done?
Have you seen his eyes? Have you seen that
Many
man's eyes?
times.
Those man's eyes. I mean, like he could launch 1 million love battles with those eyes. Like उन आँखों की मस्ती के मस्ताने हजारों हैं और हमेशा रहेंगे. Those eyes nobody else has.
Yeah.
उन्हें भगवान की आँखें हैं. Like he's got खुदा की आँखें. Like when you see those eyes, you feel like, you know, he could make any human being weak-kneed.
Yeah.
Man, woman, anyone. It doesn't matter. I mean, he's just like got those eyes. And there's little bit of those आंसू comes in those eyes and you feel like फिदा हो गए. चलो, आगे बढ़ो. प्रेम कहानी शुरू हो गई.
What have you personally learned from Shah Rukh Khan about love?
I think large-heartedness. I think love should be large-hearted. And I think he's very large-hearted about his expression of love, his giving and transference of love. I think that you can't be small-hearted if you have to have a big love story.
When you look back at your own filmography, which film of yours do you feel most accurately showcases who you are in love?
Edil.
Yeah.
Not because it shows me in love, but I know what like heartbreak and what unrequited love can feel like.
Yeah.
So it was a true reflection of what my feelings were when I went through an unrequited love story. That film is very true to me.
And when you look back, you know, at all the films that you have done, do you think that you would have showcased or, you know, had men and the male characters done any differently now that you have?
I mean, absolutely. I think the gender politics of Kuch Kuch Hota Hai very flawed. You know what, I mean, he liked the hot girl and the best friend who he loved, but because she was not so-called hot, he didn't. And then when she became hot, he went in love with her. It was like the gender politics are all wrong there, you know. So I would actually never want to do that again. Because that was also me just being impressionable by Hindi cinema and not by the gender politics of the world that were yet, like, it was new to me. Like, I didn't know it. I was only trained by Hindi cinema. I thought stalking is romance. Till I was told stalking is talking. And, you know, you can actually lead to, like, terrible things as a result of stalking. पता ही नहीं था यार, उस time मुझे लगता था ये आशिकी है. You know, one didn't know better. Like, Hindi cinema had trained my mind at least.
Yeah. But in Rocky and Rani, I saw that it's a very feminist film. You had like a film which had this mainstream commercial sensibility, and then you also had this empathy running to it. You know, you had, and one of my favorite scenes in that film is when Rocky speaks about the fact that, you know, how would he have known any better?
Yeah.
You know, do you feel like as a society we can do more?
While there's a lot of positives to the woke world and to the liberal thought process, we need it more as a society. I also feel there's a cancel culture that we need to address. And I think that particular scene addresses the cancel culture, because he's like, if you keep canceling everyone, there will be no growth, there will be no knowledge, there will be no understanding of what is wrong and right. There are so many men who don't know better because they've been trained in their parenting process or in their upbringing to be a certain kind of person. They don't know stuff. And Rocky is very much that guy who admits that I don't know better. He says things in that monologue, which has resonated with so many male members of an audience. It's only because I believe it myself. I remember there was a journalist who called me after Edil and said, why did he push Anushka? In my head, she was right. That he was being physical with her, which is incorrect. But I looked at it as two buddies who were comfortable with each other and it was wrong. So I wouldn't do that again. But I'm like, if she had just explained it to me better, I would have understood, which anyway she kind of did. But I feel like even while you want to cancel, you also know that if you keep canceling, you'll never be able to kind of teach. So do you think that, I mean, again, with regards to what you're teaching your son right now, do you think that there is a possibility of a world with a sort of kinder version of masculinity in the way that we are doing? I see it already in the kids that are growing, because I see the parenting being so much more sensitive. it really all generates down to how you raise your children. Things you say at home. Conversations you have with each other. I feel like it all finally lands up being the most important component in generations ahead. It has to be your parenting.
Yeah.
And there is no rule book for parenting. There is no one way of parenting. Just know that whatever you say sets a mindset for your child, and that child will grow with that state of mind.
Yeah.
So if you are abusive in the house, you are subjecting your child to abuse. If you show privilege and express privilege,
Yeah.
your child will be raised with that privileged mindset. If you show any kind of racial commentary, any kind of statements made that could be, against the fabric of secularism, all that will go into your child's head.
Yeah.
So things you say are very critical. Every word that comes out of your mouth has to be something that is for the good of your child. And now while I'm painting the most beautiful picture of parenting, it's tough because people go through what they go through at home. But you know your child is watching, experiencing everything you're going through.
Yeah.
You're sad, your child knows it. They just know it. So you know that you have to kind of make sure that your child and his or her relationships are nurtured very efficiently by you without being controlling, but yet being watchful.
Yeah, that's lovely. My last question to you is, I've seen now we've all seen over the last few years, there has been a certain kind of cinema that is trying to normalize homosexuality as well.
Yeah.
There is Badhai Do, which is just absolutely such a beautiful film. There is Shubh Mangal Zyada Savdhan. Do you think that as a country now, with what's happening with the Supreme Court, also with 377, we are also going to be able to have normalize homosexuality on screen?
Well, I think it's the beginning of a very long road ahead. But I'm glad that we are on the road, on the right path. I'm glad that homosexuality in cinema is not something that is now presented in a form of a joke or a form of a character that is providing like crass humor. I myself made a film, but I thought that I at least brought it to dining table discussions. Dostana was my endeavor to the first time bring the concept of homosexuality in the mainstream. There was a certain section that understood that, a certain section that criticized it for actually, bringing humor to it. But I felt very strongly that I had actually brought the issue out to discuss. I addressed it in Bombay Talkies. We addressed it in Kapoor and Sons.
Yeah.
Time and again, at Dharma, we have tried to kind of address homosexuality. And I think the most interesting depiction has been in Neeraj Ghewan's short, Ghili Puchi. Prior to that, in Kapoor and Sons with Shakun Batra. So at our end, we're trying to not normalize it, but to definitely do it the right way.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there are many such films that get us to normalize sexuality in cinema.
Yeah.
And sexuality itself gains from the depiction of various stories told through the right lens in cinema.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Karan. This was absolutely, this was emotional. This was beautiful. But before we go, I want to do a very quick, because it's you and you do a rapid fire. So of course we have to do one. But this one's like a wholesome one. So I'm going to give you a bunch of platitudes about men about certain kind of men. You have to give me names of men around you or in your life that fit this platitude. So are you ready? You get a hamper anyway, Karan.
Okay.
A man you find really sensitive.
Shah Rukh Khan, very sensitive.
A man you have seen evolve and grow over the years.
Varun Dhawan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him being a kid to now a responsible husband and man.
The warmest hugger.
I'm a very warm hugger myself. I would say still Shah Rukh Khan, biggest Pathan hug you get.
Wow. A man whose hard work you admire a lot.
Hrithik Roshan.
Yeah.
Very hardworking. He works on himself and his craft a lot and all the time.
Yeah. A man who's a very warm caregiver to Yash and Rohini.
Amrit.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Well, you made his day. An actor who showcases masculinity on screen in a beautiful way. And I know Shah Rukh Khan is one. But is there anyone else?
Amir.
Yeah. Do you really feel so?
His gaze on masculinity has never compromised on what the commercial outcome can be, but also whether it was Rang De Basanti, Dangal, Lagan, Three Idiots. I think his gaze on masculinity has always been just right.
Wow.
I think it comes from the strong women in his life.
Wow. A guy who's forever giving main character energy.
Like male character.
Main character energy.
Oh, main character energy.
I would have expected you to know this term. It's the Gen Z term.
I don't know this term, main character energy.
Someone who just feels like they're the main character of their lives and everyone else's lives. So to speak, a poo from K3G, but
a male Kareena Kapoor.
Yeah, a male Kareena Kapoor, let's say that.
Oh God, I don't know one.
Not one?
No.
Not Ranveer Singh?
No, he's not what he projects. Not
Really?
at all. No, he's not that ball of energy. He's actually the most extroverted introvert I know.
I actually expected that answer, but a guy who you feel has the strongest Riz game, which is charisma.
Oh, Riz game. Ranveer Singh.
Yeah.
Great charisma. So charismatic.
A man who has been eating and leaving no crumbs on the ramp.
I would say again Ranveer, but I think that's very talked about in his fashion. But I would say he's not on the ramp, but I think he's very fashionable as Ranbir Kapoor. I like that he's very he's classic. He and Saif are like classic fashionable men.
A man who makes you blush.
John Abraham.
Really? Because of his dimples?
No, he's very he's just like that guy who walked out with yellow shorts.
That's actually very true. A man who has been a great listener to you.
I'm the listener in any relationship. I don't talk for anyone to listen.
And the man who makes you feel safe or feel at home.
Again, Shah Rukh.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So Karan, our last section is this another wholesome section that we have called the compliment jar.
K3G, KK, SOTY will always be my favorite, but Bombay Talkies will always be closest to my heart. For a 14-year-old queer boy who secretly downloaded and watched it, and it made me feel seen. It was my Brokeback Mountain moment, like yours. Thank you for unapologetically being yourself and having this impact on me and all young queer boys of India. I'm so glad it did. I'm so glad that this means a lot to me. Yeah. Because I think the idea to make that film was to talk about repressed sexuality. Yeah. And there is that lies in abundance in our society. And I hope that many people can be able to talk about their sexuality or their sexual preferences with a lot of abandon, as opposed to repression. Even after being so trolled or being so successful, he always remains calm with a sense of humbleness and smartness. He's a man with profound knowledge, but he lands up in tough places because of the circumstances he tends to carry with him. I love this observation and I'm very grateful for this observation, and thank you that someone gets me in my life. I'm very grateful for this, and I have to just fold my hands and say thank you that somebody understands this. He spoke truth when he says at the end that his home is where he feels confined. His public image is oppressive in his private space. Hope he finds truly a safe space. Well, I think I have. Yeah. I think I have found my safe space in my own bedroom, with my own thoughts. I've noticed Karan is always so hilarious and always so brutally honest at the same time. Whatever he says always hits close home. I am 80% of the time honest. Yeah. And humor I use as a defense device. You are the Madonna of India, reinventing with grace and perfect attitude. Well, Madonna is part of my childhood. He's candid, funny, he's articulate, great understanding of human behavior, and very, very entertaining. His interviews are always so much fun to watch. Thank you. What do I say? I have no observation but gratitude to this.
There's a lot. We found such sweet comments also.
I'm glad. Who are these people who have found sweet comments? Because I've looked and I haven't been able to find more than 3. I want to tell you. So whoever's done the lurking, I'm very grateful to you. Because mostly these would look like they were made up. Because I'm not used to reading nice things about myself. So I'm very grateful that there is something nice and written there. Thank you, Nikhil.
No, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for watching Be A Mania with Karan Johar.
And please follow We Are Yuvaa on all social media platforms.
This conversation is also going to be out on all streaming platforms, so please do give it a listen.
There was no help.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as counseling. You had to kind of just, you had to kind of really help yourself. In many ways, that was the only way I knew. I couldn't talk to friends about the fact that, I have different thoughts in my head from what the conventional thoughts are.
Yeah.
Hey Nikhil, it was the final episode today.
Hi. Yeah, final episode today. पता नहीं चला पूरी सीरीज खत्म भी हो गई और इतने अच्छे, इतने इंटरेस्टिंग, इतने इमोशनल, इतने थॉटफुल कॉन्वर्सेशंस हुए हैं. So yeah, I'm very, very happy that we have reached here.
And today is a special day, right?
Today we have a board of women. We've got 3 women that I immensely admire. There's Lisa Mangaldas, there's Mithila Palkar, there is Sishti Garg. And yeah, they've agreed to come here to give us a little bit of the other perspective. In a show about masculinity, I think it's important to know what the women are also thinking.
And what are you looking forward to learning from them?
मैं एक्चुअली चाहता हूँ कि अगर थोड़ी ऑनेस्टी मिल जाए मुझे, थोड़ी दिल से बातें हो पाएं और थोड़ी लड़कों के साथ पोले खुलें. इफ विमेन कैन टुडे गिव अस सम पर्सपेक्टिव कि हम कहाँ बेटर कर सकते हैं उनके साथ, उनके लिए और सोसाइटी के लिए भी, और कहाँ हम शायद अपनी ह्यूमैनिटी में थोड़ा और टैप कर सकते हैं. आई थिंक आई विल बी वेरी हैप्पी इफ दैट हैपेंस. पर हाँ, थोड़ा तो नर्वस हूँ मैं. देखते हैं क्या पता चलेगा आज.